Oh, hey there. Welcome to the Ope-Eh three-way pro wrestling podcast on this Wednesday or Thursday or whenever, wherever, whoever you might be. I know who we are. I'm Brandon, and I'm joined for once and for always by my good buds, Donnie and Pierce. Boys, how we doing? Episode 27.
27. It's a good number.
Really stretched that intro out there, Brandon, didn't you there?
Yeah, I admitted I was kind of finagling for some, unique little sound bits or whatever, but I fumbled,
I love how, like, literally 5 seconds before we go live, my thing was like, let's keep stuff simple so we can get through all the content we're covering today. And then we get that.
It was winter
Starting off
storm
strong,
that we're
boys.
dealing with up in Scotty.
Oh, good Lord. Are you guys getting buried in snow tonight? Is that what's going on for you guys?
It's been
Wouldn't say
snowing.
buried.
It's been snowing since 9 a.m. I worked remote today because I work 45 minutes away from my job.
Yeah.
So I would have been late to the podcast because people forget how to drive in snow.
Yep. I mean, that's no different here in the actual Great White North. So we're supposed to be getting a bunch of snow overnight. So locking the doors.
What, so the snow doesn't bust in?
Yes. In the 11th floor of my condo, we do not want the snow to bust in.
Hey, well, you know what door wasn't locked?
The absolute door?
The absolute door was open for NXT because Ricky fucking Starks showed up.
Hell yeah.
That's news to me. An absolute door. Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, we know who he is. Do we know what his name is, though? Is he still Ricky Starks? We know he's Ricky Starks, but
I think he's going to be Ricky Starks. I think they're just waiting because, usually they have time to get merch and shit ready. And he kind of showed up. They were like, "Here's a contract. Here's a microphone. Do what you do best."
But like nobody's even said his name yet. They're even teasing us with that on the social media.
The crowd said what his name was. I think leaning into it is to, identify that they're probably going to let him keep his name, but
he owns the rights to his name. So they could WWE his name, or he could just be Ricky Starks. Either way, I'm so excited this guy is going to be on weekly TV again. AEW just let him slip through their fingers. He was the star of the future in AEW, and they just fucking dropped him like a bad habit for no reason.
He wasn't the only one that slipped through their fingers, though, with the other names that are off the AEW books from this week, and that's Malachi Black and Miro, formerly Aleister Black and Rusev for our WWE fans.
I think Aleister Black will make a return. Hopefully we can see that original entrance they had in NXT, Black and Gold, which was incredibly good. I don't know if we see a Rusev return. Happy Rusev Day, guys, by the way. But I really don't know. I'd be happy if both of them came back. But if Rusev Miro wants to just kind of do his own thing, that I think that's okay. Which you guys want to know a fun fact about Mr. Miro?
What's that?
His last AEW match was also Andrade's last AEW match at End of the World, or whatever, World's End 2023. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is an insane stat. He had 20 matches in 2021 when he joined, and then he had 16 total matches in the entirety of the rest of his career.
That's wild. I don't know how you keep a man who shows that much promise and that much, dare I say, improvement from his WWE run. I don't know how you shelf him like that. I don't know how you don't use that man to his fullest potential.
We'll always have the Redeemer run as TNT champ.
Which was fucking phenomenal.
One other thing I just want to talk about really quick before we get into too much of the show. We're talking about releases here. There was a batch of WWE releases as well since the last time we recorded.
Yes.
Yeah, so names there include Cedric Alexander, Akam, Razar, aka AOP, Paul Ellering, oh my god, who is managing AOP.
Blurb.
Yes. Blair Davenport, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, Giovanni Vinci, Isla Dawn, and Electra Lopez, which was one that kind of snuck up on me. I didn't realize she was also released. And Sonia Deville is a little bit removed from that. She was just told her contract would not be renewed. So
I think the most surprising on that list would probably be Sonya. Yeah, I know the PFC was kind of charisma vacuums and wasn't really getting pops, but she had a very good showing in the Rumble, in my opinion.
I did too.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully they can all succeed in future endeavors wherever they're going. Blair Davenport and B. Priestley, as she's going to be known again, is a hell of a talent. Obviously, the Good Brothers are the Good Brothers, and wherever they go, let's just hope they all succeed.
yep.
I could see B. Priestley going back to Japan. I feel like she had a lot of success over there, and she's talking about being the top guy gene. I can see her back around those parts.
That's just since our opener there. Let's talk about what else we're going to cover on the show today. We're going to be covering our 2025 predictions. That's going to stretch across multiple promotions here, so expect a lot of content on that. And we're also going to be previewing the two events coming up this weekend. That is AEW Grand Slam, the pay-per-view that was not a pay-per-view, that was a pay-per-view that was not a payper-view. So,
I saw the name Grand Slam. I kind of assumed it was a TV show.
So there was a lot of reports saying that it wasn't a pay-per-view, and then last week AEW actually put out a tweet saying like live on pay-per-view this weekend is Grand Slam or whatever, like last week, and some people called it out on social media, and then they deleted and made a new tweet for it. So that's the pay-per-view, not a pay-per-view, pay-per-view, not a pay-per-view. So yeah. Anywho, can't help myself on making a crack on that one. But also Vengeance Day is this weekend, so we'll cover that too a bit later. That said, socials, follow us, please. We're posting more content. Our YouTube is now up to episode 14, I believe. So yeah, every time I get prepped for this show, I put up a few episodes. I just throw up a few episodes on YouTube just in advance. So plan is still to be caught up.
Maybe on this fun road to WrestleMania that we're all on, you might see some collabs coming up.
You might.
It's entirely possible.
You might.
In talks with a new buddy of mine, JPJ, of Between Two Beards. So hopefully we can get a little something. He can come our way, come hang with us. Come March or maybe even early April, a little before WrestleMania, we can maybe just sit around, chitter chatter, shoot some shit, maybe have a brewski or two together, and just talk about some wrestling. But either way, looking forward to what happens next with that, and I'm looking forward to a beautiful friendship between our two podcasts.
Hell yeah.
If you're listening, JPJ, you're in on it now. You're not part of the three-way. Don't know if we can make it a four-way, because I think you're from Boston, and that doesn't really fit the Ope-Eh model. But you're a guy among friends, buddy.
Well, we're going to go this way. We're going to go that way. But I think it's time to talk about
Very well done.
I beat you to it. Sorry. A little quick on the trigger finger, but.
Well, we're here. So let's take it back to 2006. Go to Brandon's favorite promotion, TNA.
Oh, gosh.
Excellent.
Against all odds, takes place from the Impact Zone. Oh, Donnie.
Hey, 06 was a good year.
Hey, you can't bring it up that way and not expect to get an emote from me in some capacity. We've done 27 episodes by now. You should know this.
I'm fully aware. I'm just
start of peak TNA. No, 2005, because Unbreakable 2005 happened.
Yes.
But in the main event, Christian Cage would defeat Jeff Jarrett to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Good Orangeville content right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was a hell of a stroke you saw, not to use this against Jarrett in this case, but seeing a guy coming from WWE, it was one of those cases where you started to see guys who were underappreciated by the E going out to other promotions and winning big. So Christian, I would say, was very much the hood ornament on that movement. So kudos to him for that.
Well, he was never given his true due in the WWE. I'm gonna go on a little tangent. Have you guys ever heard that Vince McMahon just didn't like his face?
Yeah, I
Yes.
heard that. It doesn't really make sense to me, but yeah, okay.
Christian is a good-looking man. He's
Well, yeah, he's from Orangeville. Why wouldn't he? Well, lived in Orangeville for a bit.
okay. You be quiet, Donnie.
Yo, facts are facts.
Is that a lotion bottle I hear? I'm just kidding.
Rubs it on the skin.
Sure
Anyway,
does.
anyway, as the professor is trying to speak and teach,
Whoa. You're going to get the hose again if you're not careful, okay?
first off,
Donnie's prepping his whole. But
Go Bills.
Brandon gave me that nickname, not me. I did not give myself a nickname.
But then now you just continually call yourself that. So I'm going to make a little cracks here and there. That's my brand. I'm an asshole.
I'm going to call myself that because I was given that in a promo for the show by our co-host.
Oh.
I will also say, just with respect to Mike Tenay as well, using the Professor moniker while talking about TNA. Just throwing that out there too.
So, as the current head of NXT and WWE Creative so eloquently put it, Donnie, suck it. Christian was a WWE title challenger in 2005, Vengeance 05. He got to the finals of the SmackDown tournament, but obviously he was never going to be taken serious as a main event guy, so he went for greener pastures, and it went great for him. And then when he came back, he still wasn't taken seriously as a main event guy. It took Edge retiring for him to get his first world championship. So
feels like a common theme sometimes in WWE history where
line.
somebody gets a title because something else happened to somebody else. Just kind of awkward.
Yeah, and let's not forget his return, which it's now been cleared up by Todd Grisham that Vince told him that he had to say it as deadpan as possible. It's Christian.
It's Christian.
Oh.
An ECW, no less.
Christian's theme was an absolute banger, though. When he was, which one?
All of
Story of the Year?
Oh, what was the name of that
one?
one?
Close your eyes and find the truth reveals.
I was thinking the one before that. When he was
Christian.
Yeah, that one.
Christian.
That's the one.
Oh, that was a great. That's an A1 theme right there.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. When he was collecting all his
theme is great too.
I'll take your word for that.
His AEW theme?
His AEW theme is a banger.
You mean his TNA theme?
I'm sure his TNA theme was a banger too. I wasn't watching, but
it's the exact same theme.
Is it really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, because his TNA theme was a knockoff of his WWE theme, the waterproof blonde one, and then yeah, he went to TNA with it, and then came back, got Story of the Year, I think, and then goes back out and takes the old knockoff waterproof blonde one again. So,
but we've now gone a little too far off the beaten path. Let's jump to 2012. The New Beginning in Osaka takes place in Osaka, Japan.
I would hope so.
No way.
In the main event, Kazuchika Okada would defeat the ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, ending Tanahashi's reign of 404 days and beginning Okada's first of, I believe, 4 or 5 IWGP Heavyweight Championship reigns.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously, Tanahashi as the ace is, one of the greatest ever, but Okada's run from the young boy to the Rainmaker, and he just went off and running. Okada, in my humble opinion, is the greatest Japanese professional wrestler to ever lace up a pair of boots. And
before we get too far away from TNA attributes a lot of, if not most of, his character to his time in TNA.
He
Being around
wasn't
the Stinger.
great, but he he got the character work from TNA. So,
Yes, he did.
and speaking of
Sting in the
TNA,
Fold.
also on that day in 2012, Against All Odds takes place from the Impact Zone again. In the main event, Bobby Roode would retain his TNA World Championship by defeating Jeff Hardy, James Storm, and Bully Ray. And finally, in 2017, WWE Elimination Chamber takes place from Phoenix, Arizona. On the card, Naomi would defeat Alexa Bliss to win the SmackDown Women's title. This was a SmackDown-only pay-per-view. And in the main event, Bray Wyatt would win the namesake match, winning his first and sadly only WWE Championship, beating John Cena, AJ Styles, The Miz, Baron Corbin, and Dean Ambrose.
It's weird to have such a iconic event be brand specific, because like Elimination Chamber is now like a mainstay and has been since what 2007, 2008.
From 2000 in 2008, 2009, it was No Way Out, and then they added the Elimination Chamber
match. Yeah, okay.
And then 2010 onwards, they made the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it's strange that they'd make it brand specific for that one. Was every non-Big Four PLE brand specific at that point?
Until right after WrestleMania 33, they had the second ever brand split, and I think the better of the two brand splits. And Raw was terrible during this time, but SmackDown was very, very good. And they made it the land of opportunity, and AJ Styles was world champ. John Cena was world champ, and then Bray Wyatt was world champ.
I think Jinder Mahal was world champ in there somewhere too, wasn't he?
Yeah, but we shouldn't talk about that because it was
We should talk about that. What are we talking about, man?
I think we should give the Jinder his due.
Yeah, you can't hinder him.
You don't hinder Jinder.
Thank you.
A great Canadian champion.
Yeah,
How you gonna
a lot of disrespect to my Canadian brethren, I think, on this podcast, and that's not okay.
Could Jinder's world title reign have worked? 100%. Did it? No.
Yeah.
That's like your opinion.
He was at least a physically impressive champion when he came back to WWE. He was shredded.
Yeah. Wonder if that was inspiration for Drew's comeback.
I mean, I have to feel like they drew inspiration from each other.
Yeah, you'd have to think in some capacity that was the case, but
his time in TNA, Drew was pretty on the lighter side, but sorry, I might be getting too far down the rabbit hole.
They're both hella jacked, TNA reference. We gotta sneak it in there.
I was literally just about to. Hey, remember the Rising? No, I'm just kidding.
Why don't we talk about our TNA predictions for the year of 2025?
That seems like a great segue. Here you go, Brandon. The floor is yours.
All right, you know what? I think we can all say that we believe in Joe Hendry. I believe Joe Hendry is going to have himself a nice year-long title reign this year. I think it's going to go all the way from Genesis to Genesis at least. Because, I mean, really, who else do they have that sells tickets and moves asses and seats the way that Hendry does at this point? That being said, it can't last forever. So I feel whoever, and maybe this is slightly past 25, but there's 5 guys who I could see coming up in TNA who are going to be big factors in the main event picture on the men's side of things. So when he gets back from injury, there's a fella called Hammerstone. So I don't know if you fellas watched any of Jacob Fatu's saga on MLW, but he was one of his biggest rivals in the world title picture in Jacob Fatu's historic 819-day title reign, I believe. They battled out for that. Other one being Mance Warner. Huh?
Hammerstone is a meat castle.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
I've seen
fucking what he
is.
Looks like. I haven't watched any of his content, but I do know what he looks like, and he's massive.
He was on NXT.
He did have a match on. Yeah, he had a match against. What match? Who did he face at NXT?
I think he fought Ope-Eh.
Yeah, you're right. It was Obafemi. I see him coming back. I see him doing big shit. Speaking of big shit, Mance Warner just made his debut in TNA recently alongside Steph DeLander. He is, I think, the current. No, he's not the current TNA Digital Media Champion. That's Steph. But coming in with his GCW brand, I feel like he's going to turn a lot of heads in TNA. All the better when you consider how many more eyes they're going to have on them with this WWE partnership. Another guy looking forward to Ace Austin. Dude's got fucking T-Rex legs. He's been in the X division forever, but he's one of those guys I feel like not necessarily just because of Chris Bay sympathy, but I feel like based on his talent and his physical charisma, he's got to improve on the stick. And I feel like he's got all the tools to break into the main event scene and get himself kind of an AJ Styles run in the heavyweight division. Um, Speaking of meat castles, like we were talking about before with Hammerstone, Jake something had a couple matches in MLP, I believe. I don't know if he did both nights. I know for sure he did one. But also competed in the X division. Was able to do whatever style you need of him, damn near, and also just gotta love the beard, chiseled out of granite.
And also on the injured list right now.
Unfortunately, yes, but as is Hammerstone. But we got a whole year, fellas, and I see him coming back and putting the gas in. Lastly, but not leastly, a recently returned for however long he decides to stick around, Matt Cardona. I see Matt Cardona being a big threat to Joe Hendry. Ultimately, I feel like it's his ticket to get him back into the E, as he's been pretty candid, shall we say, about wanting to get back into the good graces of the WWE, more specifically under his own name. But I think this is the platform he uses to petition for a fresh start in the E, and I think he is going to be positioning himself up for world title matches in the E. And what better way to do that than to prove you can have good world title matches in the T and A with one Joe Hendry? So I think those five guys in particular, you're going to see at least one of them beat Joe Hendry, but I think they're all going to have pretty substantial years this year.
Okay.
That's all I got to say about that.
All right.
So there's my big TNA spiel for now. So
I don't believe that that's all you have to say about it, but Donnie put you on a timeline.
I mean,
Yes,
every
I didn't
point
hear
that
any
we
Dwayne
have-
yet, so
No. It was fine. It was fine. Every point that I expect to be brought up throughout this show will have some sort of TNA sub reference to it. So that's kind of the part that I expect, but that's okay.
all right.
Pierce, you got a TNA one as well?
Yes. I believe Joe Hendry does lose the title this year. And I want to shout out my boy. I think the man that's going to beat him is a man that nobody is hotter than. He's one of the realest in the game right now. It's Mr.
So?
A.J. Francis. He's going to become TNA World Champion.
Well, I mean, he could.
he could. He's definitely an option.
Yeah.
I just want to shout out my boy. We caught up for a minute at WrestleCon because we met last
Oh,
year.
nice.
He's a good dude. I want nothing but success for him. Shout out AJ.
He was nice to all of us when we met him in Philly. So,
but
sure,
he's an option. I don't know enough about TNA to speak definitively one way or another, so I won't comment much more than that. But he's an option.
Like I said, I just want to shout out my boy.
That's cool.
We caught up for a little bit at WrestleCon. So
I have no TNA predictions because it would be silly for me to make a prediction on something that I do not consume. So I will refrain.
Wait, where is it?
There it goes.
Yeah, sure. Moving on to AEW, I guess I can kick off a prediction on AEW, and I think it's going to be a negative one. unfortunately. Big
No,
surprise.
you have a negative opinion about AEW? You're kidding.
Big surprise, eh? I do not think they're going to end this stupid Death Riders line anytime soon. And I don't understand why. It has no fanfare with the fans. The story sucks. The matches are predictable and boring. It doesn't seem to be developing anybody. Why are we doing
It's
this?
negatively affecting two separate titles at the same time,
Yes.
along with the weekly TV.
When your primary title has been sitting in a bag for close to 6 months and it isn't because your name is
That's crazy.
Orange Cassidy, which is its own issues, but nevertheless. What the hell are
with
we
Orange
doing?
Cassidy? With Orange Cassidy, at least it makes sense. He's an aloof fucking slacker. Of course, he would carry the title in a bag. Why is John Moxley carrying the title in a duffel bag and never bringing it out?
Stay tuned and find out by Double or Nothing this year. Good Lord.
He's holding the company hostage by holding the title hostage.
It's very true. And the only way they could make it somehow worse is if Adam Copeland is the one that beats him. And I pray that does not happen. I do not want to be playing the opposite of this.
I prayed for this and it happened.
But did you predict that it happened?
No, I'm saying it's not going to happen. Well, actually, you know what?
Oh, good.
Maybe it will happen because the worst things tend to happen on that TV. But no.
Don't put that on in the air, Donnie.
Oh, hold on. Well, because the only reason I say that can happen though is because Christian still has that stupid Money in the Bank knockoff clipboard. So it's possible that Cope wins. We'll see. But that story's not going to end anytime soon, and it's going to suck.
They got the wrong guys for that fucking stable. I like Pac, I can understand, but I don't see any form of Death Rider in Claudio or in Wheeler.
Yuta.
It's
and they're all like it's just not charismatic guys in general, right? Like if you want to have guys that carry a story through a company, there needs to be somebody.
Claudio has a bunch of physical charisma.
Who? Sorry?
Claudio does, and when they brought Wheeler into the Blackpool Combat Club, it was a really good story, and they showed that they can build this kid into something, but then they just dropped the ball on everything.
I mean, well, to be devil's advocate there, well, the story there was okay. It's not like he was overly charismatic before they brought him in either.
No, he was a perpetual pure champion.
He was essentially
they both have a lot of physical charisma in the ring.
Yes, but if it's a story that you're trying to tell, physical charisma isn't sufficient.
When you have a group of guys called the Death Riders, and your best stick guy, I mean, the only guy they let have the stick, because I don't see Pac talking all that much, frankly.
It's John Moxley.
But when Mox is your front man and he's the only one who you let talk, and you have all these goons who just kind of stand there behind him in like their underwear or in white t-shirts or looking like a bridge troll or whatever the fuck Wheeler Yuta's doing with his life, like it doesn't resonate, and I don't believe it. It's hard enough to believe that all these guys stay on the same page week after week. I don't know, like what is their goal? What is their common purpose? Like, what is their grievance with AEW specifically? It's none of it makes any
question. It's the $1 million question that nobody has the answer to. I didn't want to spend too much time on that prediction, but I think it does warrant that amount of discussion that we had. What do you got, Brandon?
I think Warner Brothers are going to start turning up the heat on Tony for his piss poor ratings that he's been yielding, especially when you consider the fact that they're on the streaming service. I haven't gotten a chance to see. Same with Raw and Netflix. Like, I haven't gotten a chance to see how their numbers are doing on the streaming services. But I can't imagine, particularly for like live simulcasts, that AEW is doing anything comparable to what Raw is doing on Netflix.
I don't think I've seen a publicized number for AEW. I have seen that after the debut, Raw's numbers have dropped a fair amount, but they're still, I think domestically, they're not too dissimilar from where they were on network television, honestly.
Right, which is not good.
No, it's not
And
particularly great if you have such an expensive contract with Netflix, but
right. And Tony always, I've brought this up before, this point that he brought up where he's about, I got a lot of fucking money. But at the end of the day, money is not going to spare a TV show when it's doing shitty on the network's end. Like if viewers can't be brought in, if ratings can't be boosted, if live venues can't be filled and it looks like shit on TV from a production point of view, eventually they're gonna pull the plug.
Right.
And it's probably it's they got this deal to figure it out. So for the sake of that company and for the sake of the people who work there, I hope they get their shit together. But I
the
think
people
you're
that
gonna
work there,
start.
yeah, absolutely.
I think you're gonna start reading a lot of reports this year about how Warner Brothers is like, look, we're over this shit. Figure it out, or we're gonna figure it out for you.
Shit or get off the pot.
Now, the only reason I would say I
Precisely.
don't know if you're going to see a bunch of reporting on that is because most of the known media types never really post hit pieces towards AEW. So I am a bit skeptical of that. And like Meltzer's not going to post stuff like that.
No, of
I
course not.
fight fight.
Every time Meltzer brings up ratings and shit for AEW, he's like, "Well, this was also going on at the same time, so this makes sense." But if
Yeah,
NXT has a bad rating, it's just NXT had a shit rating.
Fightful is also not the type to post overly negative stuff about AEW from my consumption of their product. So well, I think you're right in your prediction. I don't know if we'll see the effects of it necessarily as fans. And then Tony's just going to be on his boat, so maybe he just ignores all his messages.
Yeah, doesn't he live there now?
I think
I
so.
thought I read a report. It could be it could just be dirty, dirty sheets, but
I mean, if
he
you got a
took up
boat
some
like
form
that,
of residence.
why not live on that kind of boat if you've got that kind of boat, right?
And
Right.
it's his dad's boat anyway, isn't it? Isn't it Shahid's boat? I thought that's what I heard.
You could also say it's his
Yeah,
dad's
Chaz.
company then, if that's the case.
I mean, sure. I don't know. I'm getting
Their money
it
can
just
barely fix the Jaguars, so let's see if it can fix AEW.
yeah. The more I read about Tony, every article I read about him, it just makes me cringe and
And
it's
then it's one
irritating.
about him and fucking Jimmy Jacobs consistently listening to the drive-through, going town to town. That's a little odd.
Wait, Jimmy Jacobs. Oh, I'm thinking of I thought of Jimmy Rave. Why the fuck am I thinking about Jimmy Rave? Okay, Jimmy Jacobs I could see.
I mean, both
Yeah.
ROH guys, so.
Well, Jimmy Rave is dead though too. So
That would be a little hard to wrap around him.
yeah, I was gonna say, wait a minute, isn't he dead? I shouldn't laugh about that at all. Rest in peace, Jimmy Rave.
Yeah, not laughing at the death, just laughing at the thought of Tony Khan driving around listening to wrestling content with a dead guy in his car. That's would be a little
Kind
strange.
of like the Legion of Doom did it back in the '80s with the fucking skeleton riding around in a cab.
Or the segment where the Big Show's dad got dragged out of the cemetery.
Oh, good old Attitude Era. Yeah, the Big Boss Man was part of that one.
What a man!
Pierce, what do you got? Give us something.
All right. So are we just kind of going back and forth for these, or am I giving all my?
Yeah, we can go shot for a bit. I've only got one more, so you do one, I'll do one, and then you guys can duke it out for the rest of them before we move on.
I'm gonna give my easiest prediction, but the one I hate the most right away. And I put this in my script.
Okay.
Mercedes Moné becomes the world champion of the women's division.
Do you think she
When,
becomes
though?
a double champion?
No. And
Okay.
I have the person who beats her in a different prediction.
Okay, so I won't ask you to spoil that now, but you don't think she'll be double champion as part of that?
No. She's already
I mean,
a fucking triple champion right now, holding 4 belts. That's enough.
I was gonna say. Either
Double
way, she's
AEW.
double champion.
Yeah, I meant double AEW champion, but
Oh, sure, yeah.
hey,
Gonna have that.
I will never say that she is not talented in the ring. I might hate on her finisher, which I've done before many times, and I'll probably do it again the next time I see it. But I will not hate on her overall in-ring work ever. But that's where the lack of hate ends.
Her
character sucks.
character is bad. The most entertaining thing that she's done in this company has been with Harley Cameron having a puppet, and in Harley's words, having her hand up her ass.
I
Riveting.
mean, not wrong. I mean, compared to the standards we have for AEW, like that's probably an accurate statement. And given how much Mercedes actually shows up and shows out,
heater in Camille, and now Camille just gone because they broke up for no apparent reason. There was no breakup angle; it just happened. And
which
now
is ridiculous.
Camille's just gone when she is so fucking talented. But I think they will put the world title on her, and if you get her with a Toni Storm, with a Mariah May, I'm sure we're in for some fucking banger matches for sure. But like, it's just, it's gonna happen.
I mean, hell, she could even put her up against fucking Athena while we're at it too. Athena's got a 800+ day reign going as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. They have like no women's division, but what's one more fucking belt, right? And she could say she beat the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion of all time.
Wow.
And do her little fucking dance. Hey, they want to get that TV deal. You want to score some points with an agency, with a network?
Don't
slap Mercedes Moné in there.
Do people care about Mercedes Moné as far as like consumption of content?
I can't imagine I haven't actually gotten numbers on it, but I can't imagine she's anywhere near her standing of when she was in WWE.
I can't imagine she's earning that contract that she's got if the numbers for that were true.
Or do you have some insight on the numbers, or?
Well, they were estimated over $5 million a year. So.
Oh, for her contract?
Yeah. She certainly.
I mean, I could. Yeah, that much. Weight. No, absolutely not.
Oh. If they give her a mouthpiece, I'm sure. Honestly, this is gonna sound kind of dumb. Throw her in the Hurt Syndicate. I think having MVP as her manager would be fucking phenomenal for her.
I don't think her ego would allow her to have a mouthpiece.
Right. I feel like the way they've built her, they kind of screwed the pooch with it, but she's not the kind of person to have anything by her except for her and her belts. Like, that's why she dumps Camille. That's why, effectively, yeah. I mean, they want to tout that as much as they want. They can go for it.
The CEO don't need a mouthpiece.
I disagree with that.
I get it.
You may
from a character perspective, not from a does she actually need it? Yeah, she probably does, but like,
right.
The likelihood of that seems pretty low.
Sure, but it's just.
My other AEW prediction is I expect MJF is going to be off TV for a considerable amount of time due to some additional dispute. His content in the last couple of years has, well, basically since the Brochachos debacle ending, has been quite miserable. And it's not getting any better with him beating up on old people every week. Now he's in a feud with Dustin Rhodes. What are we doing here?
One less dagger to Cody, I guess. Gotta get at his older brother.
What a waste of talent. I don't know if you guys saw the clip of, there was a clip on social media. I can't remember who it was, but they were interviewing Seth Rollins. And it was in regards to the Luka Doncic trade that happened in the NBA.
A weird interview.
Yeah, so they ask him, what's a comparable AEW trade? And of course, Seth is Seth and says there's nobody on that roster worth trading for anybody on WWE, which lol, but not that I think that's true either, but lol nevertheless. But then he dropped the names that he dropped in a potential blockbuster trade. He said would be John Cena and MJF. So clearly, he at the very least has, respect for MJF as a big star player. But his writing certainly hasn't dictated that, and I can't imagine someone like MJF being thrilled about that for an overly long amount of time.
Well, Well, the week to week, it seems like they're building to MJF versus Hangman, which is,
Hangman the face.
yeah, it's weird. Hangman's already kind of it's kind of like tweener Hangman, really. But
I told you it was happening. Like, no, he's gonna get crazier. He's still a heel. Da, 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 da. It's like, oh, I don't know.
I'd say he's more tweener because he's still a dickhead. But
it's like face leaning tweener still because he's against the bad guys.
Yeah, it's kind of hard being a heel in an MJF feud because MJF is just MJF.
Just because it ties into this conversation, I just wanted to throw this out there that one of my next predictions for AEW was that Hangman MJF was going to be the feud of the year for AEW. In contrast to what you're saying, Donnie, where he's going to be off TV for a bit. Maybe he is and they carry it somehow. But I feel like Hangman MJF is set to, it has the potential, if they both turn their burners on, it has the potential to be a great feud.
Okay.
I think their matches are going to be phenomenal if MJF is not phoning it in on the microphone, which with Hangman he probably won't, especially if it's going to be, a face Hangman, even if he's still a fucking asshole. Who, if we're talking character wise, there's one true main character of AEW and is Hangman Adam Page.
Unless, MJF has something to say about that, in which case you could say it's him, and that's the basis of their feud.
Yeah, they're the two homegrown stars of AEW. They've had maybe, I don't know if they've even had a match together that I can think of besides the ending of the first Casino Battle Royal. So
yeah, I'd have to take a look back, but nothing substantial that I can note.
So yeah, I agree that those two would probably have feud of the year.
Yeah, Battle Royal is the only thing that I see between the two of them. Just to win the Dynamite Diamond ring. That was the only time.
Oh, so Hangman definitely lost that one.
He did. Yes.
Yeah, that was the first Dynamite Diamond ring match.
Yes,
and obviously MJF is, the patient zero and forever of the Dynamite Diamond ring.
Yeah, he's like the Chelsea Green U.S. Women's Champion. First, only, best, worst, prettiest, ugliest. MJF has it all with the Dynamite Diamond ring.
You gotta throw in a Canadian there, don't you?
No, I just was tying it to something that's on TV. The Canadianism was coincidence.
Whatever you say.
The Dynamite Diamond ring is even legit.
You just gotta hop in there and be like, hey, buddy, let's talk about a Canadian real quick here, guy.
Seeing you're hating on it again.
I am.
I was right in my analysis that you're just hating on Canadians. Next thing I know, you're going to start tariffing our podcast.
You guys were the ones that have been bogarting Coffee Crisp and all dressed chips. This is on you. All dressed chips are now becoming a thing in American stores consistently. So
it's true. I have a bag of Quick Trip brand all dressed potato chips in my cupboard right now.
Oh man, now you guys are making me go want to pick up some chips. Talking about chips, I need some
Quick
chips.
Trip, a Wisconsin brand, mind you.
Marta, I need some chips. Marta says for me to get my own fucking chips.
Attaboy.
Good on you, Marta.
All right. Pierce, what do you got? Since Brandon kind of lumped one in there with me.
I will go off my last prediction. Harley Cameron will become the TBS champion. She is one of the bright spots of weekly TV in AEW. She is becoming one of the most popular people in the company off her own merit of being herself, and she should be the one to dethrone Mercedes.
So by virtue of what you just said, she's the only bright spot on weekly TV in AEW.
Oh, that's not.
AEW has Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, MJF. There's a lot of good in AEW, but there's also quite a bit of bad.
No timeless Tony Storm.
I said there's a lot of good. She is in there.
I would have listed her well before MJF, but anyways.
I mean, she's effectively carrying that company right now, in my opinion. But
So in that
I want to
sense,
say normally she's carrying them on her back. I feel like she would say she's carrying them on something else, but I don't want to say it because it would sound weird coming from my mouth. But I'll leave that up to interpretation for her character.
yeah, that's fair.
yes, sir.
Do you think? I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but it's relevant since we're talking about it. Do you think both of those titles change this weekend?
I think one does.
Okay, I'm not asking you which one yet,
Mm,
so we'll leave it at that for now. We can get into that when we talk about that part of the show, unless you want to talk about it.
yeah,
No, we'll
I,
talk
I
about
also
it. Kids.
I also attest to one
One of those.
change of
Okay.
hands.
Okay. I do not have any more AEW references, predictions, anything like that.
Well, I got two. I don't know what you got, Pierce.
2.
Go ahead.
You have Dose.
I have Dose left.
All right. Well, I guess probably the easiest one, the low hanging fruit here, would be to say that come November, Will Ospreay is going to win the Continental Classic. Yeah, they got to give him something else besides the world title, which I, for whatever reason, don't see him winning. Maybe even this year, but Continental Classic seems to be the next step towards that general direction. So,
Yeah.
Why didn't he win?
He had
it
a
this
strong
year?
showing this year, huh?
Why didn't he win it this past year?
Because Okada won.
Why did Okada have to win?
Uh, he's in the elite,
Okada is the greatest tournament wrestler of all time.
and he's the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. Yes.
All right. That's a valid reason.
And it's the only thing that's really keeping him relevant at present, unfortunately. So they probably had zero fucking plans for him without that belt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest about that.
Which
But
is terrible because it's goddamn Okada.
it's Kazuchika fucking Okada, right? And we'll talk about him in a little bit too, and the odd placement that he's in for their upcoming event. But this is where we are with him, and I guess we'll just have to see where that goes. But yes, the Continental Classic win. I guess they were looking to add some prestige to the C2 by having a dominant, continuous winner. Obviously, Okada, like Pierce had said, the greatest tournament wrestler of all time, I suppose.
That sounds like you're
But-
contending it.
I mean, I'm not necessarily contending it. I mean, his G1 record speaks for itself too. But I mean, Ospreay had
more wins in the G1 than him.
Right. He's up there with Chono as far as but I am of the opinion that will be based on his super strong showing, and for the fact that again, I don't think AEW World Title is in the cards for him this year. I think this is the next best thing, and maybe even a stepping stone to that in 2026. So
I'll agree to disagree on that because I think he does win the world title later this year. And I think that he goes into the C2 as champion and wins it and then absorbs the C2 championship into world championship.
I'm going to be devil's advocate to your devil's advocate and say, do you think the title's going to change that many times considering where it's at right now? Or do you think he's going to be the one to eventually beat Jon Moxley?
I will do one of my predictions right now. Jay White's going to win the title at Dynasty, and then Will's probably going to beat Jay White for it.
Okay.
I'd get behind that. I mean, I don't know what kind of broader appeal it has, but I mean, obviously Jay White and Will Ospreay have had a pretty lengthy engagement, shall we say? Like back in their early days, back at the UK and Ring of Honor, and both having their own factions. Will in the United Empire, and Jay obviously being Bullet Club leader. So if they cross paths in AEW for the world title, I would definitely tune in for it.
That's your all-in Texas main event, I think.
I would not be mad.
You think the all-in
Hell, I'd even be
main
invested.
event would be Jay White versus Will Ospreay?
Yeah, why not?
I feel like
I
Hangman
think
might be in the main event. Get that Texas
that
feel
gets,
to it.
yeah. Even though he's a Virginia boy,
Yeah, but
he's
he's a
still repping the South though.
yeah.
If we're going with the Texans, then fucking Keith Lee's gonna be in the main event.
Well, let's
I
not get carried away. He was in the
yeah.
show last week supposedly, so hopefully he's doing a bit better.
He said
Good.
that he was at both shows because he's from Texas. And
Oh.
they were in Texas.
And that's all that was.
And if he's back soon, I'd be very happy. I love Keith Lee.
Yeah, I just feel like they tend to cater to the hometown market as much as possible when it comes to like main events of these shows a lot of the time. For better or for worse. In some cases it will be better.
I think you get your real blow off for MJF Hangman at All In Texas. Probably in a Texas death match.
Could see that.
Another one?
There's
I
got to
feel
have
like
a
they've had a
Texas death
couple of
match
those.
they got to have a
Hangman's
Texas death
match,
match in Texas.
I mean, I guess, but still. Well, and but if it's going to be between two guys, I guess Hangman and MJF make a lot of sense, considering both of their track records in those kinds of matches.
You think the feud will go that way?
But
Isn't that supposed to be in the summer?
Yeah, it's July.
It's a
yeah,
ways
it's
away.
shortly after. Yeah, they could easily drag it out that long.
They've been having these run-ins for 5 weeks now, and they barely said a word to each other.
5 weeks is very different than 5 months.
They could easily build it for 5 months.
Okay.
Not 5 months to one match, but I think they'll have.
That'll be like the third
Probably
blow-off
3
match kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one at Dynasty, one at Double or Nothing. They split going into Forbidden Door, and then they come back for All in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's possible. Is that a prediction? Because it's your turn. It's your turn for your second to last prediction.
My big prediction was Jay White winning the AEW title at Dynasty.
Oh, so we snuck that one in. All right, so you only have one more then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Brandon, if you want to go.
yeah. This ain't going to have a lot of oomph to it, but considering recent events and considering a little bit of heat that their manager was throwing out on social media, I think AOP and oh fuck, the name literally just
Paul Ellerling.
Paul Pellerler
Ellering.
go
It's hard to
Eller
say.
yeah Paul O-Ring go to. I think they go to AEW, and I think shortly after they debut there, they win the tag title. I don't know how long the Hurt Syndicate has with the tag belts, especially because Bobby Lashley's one of the champs, and I feel like he's kind of like their figurehead.
With everything they said about the Swerve feud, they may not want to lose anytime soon.
I mean, I don't see them. I mean, if anyone's going to lose in that match, it'd probably be Shelton. I don't see Bobby taking the pin.
They could also bring Cedric Alexander in there, and then Bobby doesn't have to defend and lose.
Some weird like handoff thing with like Omos where he's like, you know what, I don't want this anymore.
Well, they did it with Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, they did. You're right.
They could Freebird rule.
Yeah, I think that's a way of getting out of it where they could lose without Bobby being involved.
Sure. But when you have Ellering going on social media like right after they get released and saying basically that WWE is chicken shit because he knows that AOP can go up against any tag team in WWE and beat them, and then kind of in a way comparing them to like Legion of Doom, obviously with his own personal biases in there. I mean, I don't think we've seen the last of them. I think they jump with everything that's going on nowadays. I feel like AEW is a place for them to go. That and his daughter Rachel, I think, is still under contract with Tony. I think she does more for AEW or for Ring of Honor than for AEW, but he at least gets to be with his daughter, working with her potentially. So
yeah, that's a good one. I I don't think that AOP are a modern day Road Warriors.
I
But
don't
I mean,
know
this
that
is just
anybody
Paul
does
blowing
except
smoke
for
on his
Paul.
old ass, but
Yeah.
But I will say, you look at their NXT run before they were brought up to the main roster, they were shown that they can fucking go. Those matches they had with FTR, DIY, they were all fucking fantastic.
yeah,
And
they made the other wannabe Road Warriors obsolete. What's it? The Ascension.
Yeah.
Remember when they were the dominant NXT tag team, and then they went straight to hell?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did nothing on the main roster.
because they
Except
immediately
be
got
like,
buried by legends because Vince McMahon can't fucking build new talent. It just has to shove legends down our throat. That's a whole
well, in
nother
the end,
episode.
That's a whole nother
yeah.
podcast. What do we got? We're almost an hour in already. We haven't even got to WWE predictions. So what's your last one for AEW?
Christian Cage will try to cash in probably post Cope match at Revolution, and Luchasaurus will cost him and stop him.
I hope so.
Oh,
That would be nice because I know Luchasaurus has been going through a lot.
oh God, yeah. Dude
And
could
he's
have
an
died.
important talent. He's part of the reason that WWE's developmental is not the hell that it once was with Bill DeMott at the helm with those essentially just terrible fucking people building these stars of the future and beating them more or less. Luchasaurus is the one who sent the email that said, "Hey, what the fuck is going on?"
Well, don't
So
don't
guy,
tell that to the girl
Luchasaurus.
that got berated by Gunther in that preview to LFG.
well, there's a difference between being berated and being fucking hit because you did something wrong.
True. I'm not.
Being
I'm
beaten.
not. I was making a joke, maybe in a bit of poor taste, but nevertheless.
Ooh.
Yeah, I can take.
Nobody cares
admit
about her anyways. Gunther said so.
that. Yeah, that would
But
be nice to see Luchasaurus come back and be healthy. Never want to see people go out like the way that he did, and all the complications that came with that. So
Oh yeah, right.
I just
Especially when you consider like with Brody Lee too.
yeah.
You hear
wanna see
about
him
what happened with
succeed.
him, and you kind of draw parallels.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him succeed and then go on a nice singles run. And not a singles run where he's the TNT champion and somebody else is parading around like they're the TNT champion. I want to see just him having bangers with people because he's an incredible worker. And yeah, he got dealt a bad hand health wise, but I wanted to see him be healthy and okay.
Cool.
Yeah, too bad I never got to see him be Malachi Black's satanic dragon guy. That's what last thing I wanted. Well, they're both Satanists, so
That would have been
economically
fucking
makes
cool.
perfect
Though.
sense. It
That
would have been great. But alas, que sera, sera.
All right. That finishes off our AEW predictions until we get into the actual match list after our WWE predictions, which we'll start right now. I figured that the best way to kind of do this with likely having more and more dialogue is to maybe just trying to position these as chronologically as we can. So we'll just kind of break these off into pieces and we'll say, do we have any predictions up to and including WrestleMania that we want to start with?
What, we don't have Rumble predictions?
We do not.
Rumble's next year, guy.
Uh-huh.
That's 2026, my dude.
But we already know it's going to be Sami Zayn.
That was a shitty joke, so.
Oh, well.
It's because he's looking so forward to the
Let me
Rumble
find
next
that
year.
soundboard.
No, he's very excited for the Royal
we
Rumble.
are.
I heard
Well, somebody
that.
has to be right.
Mm.
Wrong horn. The last one was the right one. Anywho,
Piper Niven. Here's an up to WrestleMania.
Okay.
Piper Niven beats Chelsea for the Women's United States Championship as a heel. Chelsea will have turned fully face by this point.
I can dig that.
that's foreseeable.
I can dig that. And Piper Niven can go. Like, she is very, very good in the ring and hasn't really got much of a fair shake. I think she had a title match against Bianca at Royal Rumble 2024, I want to say. 2023?
2021,
It was that long
2022.
ago? No.
It was Becky, and she was Dewdrop.
No, she had one
Mm-hmm.
against Bianca too, no?
She had
She had one at
one.
Bianca in Clash at the Castle.
That was Bailey.
Or was that
No.
Bailey?
Yes, that was Bailey.
That was Bailey. Yep.
Clash the Castle Scotland last year.
Yeah, she got the local gal treatment, same as Alba and Isla. But Piper put on a hell of a fucking match with that one. I'm surprised they didn't do shit with her since then, except, Secret Service detail, but not like
And
it's
she liked
horrible
my
for her
tweet
career.
when I said that Slajan P was a dope ass nickname. So shout out to Piper.
I'm actually going to look and see when this match would have been that I'm imagining in my brain. That maybe didn't happen. Oh, no, it did. 2022.
So that would have been Becky.
No, it was Bianca.
Bianca was not women's champion at the
Okay,
beginning of
then I just completely imagined the match then.
That happens.
That happens. That happens. Okay, well, yeah, that would be nice. She's a solid talent, so I'd get behind a Piper Niven focused heel U.S. champion run. But I think what you'll get in the meantime is 3 more title defenses against Michin.
Run the whole trilogy back. Why not? Like fucking put Kevin Owens in fast forward. Get through one more full trilogy, just L after L after
they're
L.
not done yet. I don't think. I don't know why, but they're not done yet. So we got to get through that.
Because for whatever reason they're not building the women's mid card very well on SmackDown.
Or on
or on Raw, for that matter.
Well, at least the women's mid card champion had a match this week on Raw. A pretty good match at that.
I think both are capable of quite a bit better than what they performed on Monday.
I agree with that. They had some spots, but there were so many hiccups where they looked like they were trying for something and then just went womp.
Yeah,
and it did that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, unfamiliar in the ring together, like that shit happens. I'm sure the next time they're in the ring together, it'll probably be much better. But that's kind of the sentiment that I had there. It's just a couple things that just kind of fell flat through that match. Sorry to argue with you on everything, Pierce, but I think we talked about that.
I think it's just you just trying to be mean to me.
No, we talked about it on Monday
on my own podcast.
I initiated that idea before you even said you liked the match when we were talking about it in our chat.
Yes, but I did in the chat also say that I thought it was a good match.
Yeah.
So
we're all entitled to our own opinions.
I'm just taking the piss out of it, Don.
But yeah, that's a good prediction. Brandon, do you have anything going into or including Mania?
Maybe not specifically Mania, but on the NXT side of things, prior to or up to Stand and Deliver, I will say I could see Fraxium losing their tag team championships to the Hardys.
Well, they just had a face-off last night, right?
Yeah, and they'll also be TNA tag champs at the time. So as kind of a neat little symbol of this new partnership they got, you have the Hardys, and who better than the Hardys, right? Like, you consider what they've meant to both WWE and TNA, plus whatever tag team they want to build to beat the Hardys for either belts, I feel like will be solid, hopefully, going forward. Because right now, as far as tag teams go, there's not really a lot of great teams in NXT that I feel like hold a candle to Fraxium.
Well, there's going to be another title match this weekend with Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura. I probably pronounced that wrong, but I'm just reading it off the paper.
Sure, the Noah guy.
Yes, the Noah guy. So we'll see how that goes. There's still some tag teams. Like there's that tag team that's affiliated with Sean Spears, where if you watch the ending of NXT last night. That was a pretty brutal attack on Tony D. So that's a tag team that could be an option. There's a new faction that's being teased going into Saturday. So, but yeah, we'll get into more of that stuff. But I would not be surprised to see that as a stand and deliver match. I don't know if it would be like title versus title or anything, but I could see that match happening at stand and deliver.
I mean, when you look at TNA, there's not a hell of a lot of teams on their end either. So, I mean, you have both brands kind of sharing the same predicament, but then there's two sets of champions. So why not just
let's be
go
honest,
for the gold?
Brandon, let's be honest.
I'm listening.
You just wanted to sneak another TNA prediction in there and say it's a WWE one.
No, I was speaking specifically about Stand and Deliver, which is an NXT / WWE product.
Is your next
Stand and Deliver?
Is your next prediction John Cena and Joe Hendry have a match for the TNA World Championship?
Well, that's a pretty wild prediction. That's more of wishful thinking than anything. But to answer your question, no.
Thank you for calling that out, Pierce. It's funny.
Well, hey,
it's valid. I think if it had been any other tag team, I would have it had it been just like nameless TNA tag team that happens to be champions, I might have dumped on it a little bit. But like the Hardys have a lot of history in WWE, so I can humor that.
And when you consider the fact, and they've been on the campaign of winning like multiple tag titles from multiple companies before too, so this isn't out of
2017. They had their expedition of gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they dumped the fucking Ring of Honor World Tag titles like the day before WrestleMania when they came back. Oh, it might have been the day of.
The morning of.
Because they had a match that morning.
Oh, man.
Just set the Ring of Honor tag titles down, go, see ya!
Yeah, well,
basically.
Lose. Oh, we're going to
get
Donnie's
you to go favorite tag team in the world, the Young Bucks.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm sure the Young Bucks were not supposed to go over in that match, but had to. Great. Anyways, I'll give one. I'm actually going to give my prediction for the two main events for night 1 and night 2. I actually think we are going to get a women's night 1 main event because there isn't a whole lot else that is presenting itself to be a fair night 1 main event. Sorry, Jay versus Gunther. I don't think you're there yet.
I don't disagree with that, though. I just want to point that out as the Jay defender on the podcast.
Yep.
The Jay apologist.
The Jay sympathizer.
Yeet. I need a yeet button.
I don't think we're getting a yeet button yet. Maybe I'll get a no
by
yeet
yet,
button.
Meaning ever.
Well, because no yeet is like more actual quotable. But anyways, we're deviating from the point here. I think the night 1 main event is going to be Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, who will win at Elimination Chamber. And this is more wishful booking, but the night 2 main event will centralize obviously around the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship and both of its lineages.
Is it that Armageddon Hell in a Cell that I pitched?
It's something along those lines. I'm going to go with what I initially said, but like we can kind of dogpile onto this. I would love to see a main event of Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins in a fatal 4-way. And the reason why I'm involving those 3 people, and unfortunately not Drew McIntyre, is that all 3 of these guys have very direct, intimate stories tied to Cody and his current reign as champion or his time in WWE, specifically to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins never got his win back from Cody from his debut. Roman Reigns never got his rematch for losing to Cody at Mania 40. And CM Punk is desperate for a main event, is owed a favor from Paul Heyman, and had a very notable promo interaction with Cody just before the Royal Rumble. To say that one deserves to have it over the other and potentially could beat Cody, like a John Cena, for example, I think that leaves a lot of potential storylines on the table that were missed out on. And you can cross a lot of boxes off in one match real quick by putting those 4 in the ring together to main event night too.
Lest we forget, too, 3 of those 4 men were in the main event of Mania Night 1 last year. So, and Punk arguably could have been in the main event just as likely as Cody Rhodes for one of those nights at least.
All 4 of those guys have story directly intertwined with each and every one of it's like the perfect web between the 4 of them.
I agree.
You would have a hell of a main event and a hell of a story if you run with it.
I think you can honestly. I agree. But honestly I don't see it happening. But the fucking 6-way is honestly have a 6-way elimination match. Throw Drew and Cena in there, and just
that would be a first, though, and especially after the
minutes.
Chamber.
I know it defeats the point of the Chamber, but it's just like there's so many. This, like I've been saying, we have 10 weeks to Mania, which is a long fucking time.
Yep.
And there are so many ways it could go. This is one of the most unpredictable roads to WrestleMania. Like, they've been saying that the night 1 main event plan is Roman versus Seth versus Punk. Just that match, nothing, no stakes, just those 3. And now they're saying people are trying to get Punk into Cody versus Cena and make that the night 2 main event. Tiffany versus Charlotte could easily main event because Charlotte has her, hey, I'm Charlotte Flair and I get whatever the fuck I want in the bank.
Such a hater. Tiffany wins.
She should win. Drew. I've been saying Drew versus Cody should be the Mania main event because Drew should be the one to beat Cody in my eyes. Like, there's so many people that have this much story with Cody Rhodes. CM Punk and Cody's story goes back 20 years to OVW, and then you also have the AEW connection. Roman and Cody have been telling a story for 3 straight years. Seth never got his win back, like you said. Drew and Cody were both guys that were overlooked and released, and at one point they were tag team champions together, believe it or not.
Yep.
And then John Cena's the Superman old going against the Superman anew. There's a ton of different ways, but I'd be okay seeing that main event.
Maximum Chaos main event.
I think a 6-way Armageddon Hell in a Cell is the way to go.
I don't know, man. It's hard to tell all those damn stories within that cage, though, and make them all make sense.
Just to tie in another prediction that I had associated to WrestleMania season, I don't believe John Cena gets his first win on this streak until WrestleMania itself. So I don't believe he'll win the Elimination Chamber. I do not believe he will be in a title match at WrestleMania, but I do believe he will win his WrestleMania match, which will put him on the path proper to potentially winning 17. And I'll talk about that more as we get to those predictions.
Back to the one that you mentioned about...
We're talking up to Mania. This is Mania. Who do you have him facing?
Logan Paul.
Oh.
I know. From a wrestling fandom perspective, I know.
I get for the casual fan, that's a huge match you can make. But for Cena's last Mania match, fuck that. You know who he should face if it's not Cody for the title?
Baron Corbin.
I'd be okay with that. But shout out Baron Corbin or the Nomad Bishop Dyer.
Yes, thank you.
It should be fucking Drew McIntyre. Drew and Cena having those 2 cut promos with how Drew's promo game has improved. Cena's promo game is still Cena's promo game. He's one of the best promos ever. He had a lot of stinkers because it was always, fine speech, then him just ragdolling the person. But Drew and Cena would be able to tell a compelling ass story together.
I've got my reasons for booking it the way that I do.
So back to the first thing you said, Donnie, about the women's main event, about Rhea versus Bianca.
Yep.
How are you feeling that goes down? Because you still have the women's tag titles between Naomi and Bianca that are yet to be taken off them, even though that seems to be the case coming up potentially.
It seems inevitable that they will lose them.
And then there's also the Jade Cargill card that has to get played leading up into WrestleMania season 2. I have to believe it's going to get played by WrestleMania.
You would hope
She
so.
will factor into a story.
Though you would also
So
think
then,
it's more likely to factor in on the Naomi side than it would be on the Bianca side at this point.
so you think that Naomi's the target of Jade going forward, and that kind of clears the path for Bianca to challenge? Or
I would think so. I would think so. Because I don't know if you're going to have another opportunity to get Rhea versus Bianca at Mania if neither of them are champions at that point. Like, certain things have got to align, right? And sometimes you got to strike while you can. And Rhea's champion. She needs a credible challenger. Yes, Io is a credible challenger. Yes, unfortunately, Liv is a credible challenger. Yes, that three-way that's been teased is also an option. But the biggest match I think you could have for that moment is still probably with Bianca. You probably want to get it while you can, and there's no guarantee
sure,
you can get it later. I would go with Bianca, and I think they would have a hell of a match, and that would deserve night one main event.
absolutely, I would think on any given night they could have a Mania kind of match. But like, I guess too, playing off of that, because we only have 2 months to go till Mania, so you have to build these two megastars to eventually collide. And like, how do you do that? So like, you are likely going to have heel and face dynamic, right? So who goes which way and why? I guess because Bianca is pretty firmly face, from what I can tell,
Yeah, she's firmly face.
and as is Rhea, for what I can tell.
Rhea's definitely firmly face. Yes. I'm not sure.
So
I'm not sure that I haven't necessarily thought that far ahead on that. Like, I see the match being the logistics of the match and that part, like on who. It depends on when this Jade thing happens. I'm not sure the reason why it's been dragging out as long as it has, but like, we kind of have to see how the Jade part fleshes out. Where if it ends up that both of them coordinated the attack on Jade and Jade ends up being a face and the others are heels. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of messiness that needs to be cleaned up there before you can get, I think, the proper imagery on where Rhea versus Bianca would be. I'm just
sure,
I'm a proponent of strike while the iron's hot in that sense. So
that's fair. That's
uh,
fair.
we took a lot of time on mine, so I apologize for that. Did you guys have anything else leading up into Mania or into Mania?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing distinctly.
Okay, so let's transition then into post Mania through King of the Ring through Money in the Bank. What do you guys got in that window of time?
The men's United States Championship continues its bit of renaissance. You know, it's unfortunate with Shinsuke Nakamura winning the title. I was all for it, but every time Shinsuke wins a title, he disappears, which is stupid. Whoever wins the title from Shinsuke, I believe it's probably going to be Big Jim Uso, and the title gets a bit of a renaissance.
Okay. He is supposedly rumored to be getting a title match at Elimination Chamber. Not Jim Uso, but Shinsuke defending at Elimination Chamber, for what it's worth.
I would hope so.
Maybe you see an Uso Open challenge.
Okay. I think one of those titles, whether it's the men's or the women's on either of the mid-card side, we need to see those open challenges back because it makes for a little bit of unique match opportunities and some spontaneity. So I would like to see that, and we get a big gym challenge out of it. I'd be happy with that.
The Usi Challenge.
The Usi Open.
The big Jimboree.
The Usi Open. The No Yeet Invitational.
The No Yeet Invitational. Let's go.
You didn't like the big Jimboree? That one doesn't roll off the tongue as well?
It rolls off the tongue better, but I don't know if it works as far as a match type.
I suppose. You're probably right.
It sounds
that
like
was my shot anyway.
The words roll, though. I will say that. Okay, that's a very fair One, I think Shinsuke's reign has been pretty bad. So,
I don't think that's on Shinsuke though. I think
well, yeah, if you
it's
don't,
again.
with any like we talked about this with Judgment Day when they were tag titles for God knows how long and never defended it, right? Like the wrestlers don't get to dictate when they're on TV. The writers and the people like Triple H dictate when they're on TV. So you can only do what you got with the time that you're given.
Which is odd because Shinsuke is a Triple H guy through and through. We saw how he was booked in NXT, and he was booked fucking phenomenally.
Well, and when you consider the fact that his character leading up to his title win was booked to be like, this unbeatable mystical force now, and then he goes away.
Round of shots on SmackDown over the past couple weeks, kind of lurking in the shadows around, weirdly enough, Big Jim. But like, it's just unfortunate because Shinsuke is, I said Kazuchika Okada earlier, is probably the greatest wrestler in the history of Japanese wrestling. Shinsuke is up there.
Well, Shinsuke definitely laid the way for him. Like, he brought him into Chaos. They basically ran the group together. They're very instrumental to each other's success. And then Shinsuke being the youngest, I believe still the youngest IWGP heavyweight champion of all time. And then having great matches with
when
Kurt.
Shinsuke came out for NXT Takeover Dallas, that when his entrance music hit, people chanted "Holy shit!"
He
was a big sign.
I'm just gonna say that perceptions of on NXT and perceptions on the main roster are very different. Like we do
True.
need to keep that in mind, right? Like we go back to DIY, and I've been critical of DIY's perception from the main roster fan base. Obviously, they were a very hot team in NXT, and that didn't correlate, right? There's others that have gone through similar. So I don't think it's fair to say just because they did well on NXT means that they should be doing well on the main roster.
That's a fair point. I'm just saying, with how he was booked on NXT with Triple H as the creative head as NXT, you would think.
Well, let's not forget too. Like the first couple of years Shinsuke was on the main roster, he was pretty over, and he was consistently featured in WWE Championship matches. He had a championship.
The Royal Rumble.
He won the Royal Rumble. Was super over with that. I'll never forget this because I saw the promo. I saw the card, and I thought it was something off of DeviantArt or some shit. Remember that when he had that match with John Cena on SmackDown to face Jinder Mahal for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam? It was a famous card, and I saw that, and I'm like, what the fuck kind of universe are we in right now? But and he does have a win over John Cena as well. Arguably, the Renaissance era of John Cena within that time period.
I was gonna say, who doesn't have a win against John Cena nowadays?
Well, I mean, nowadays, yeah, but
Grayson Waller.
This is like
Grayson Waller doesn't. So
not yet, but he is on the Raw roster along with Austin Theory, who has not been released as of now,
and has beaten John Cena.
Well, and who has beaten John Cena?
All right.
There's no lie.
Let's go to our next prediction.
Okay, Brandon, you said you had some on King and Queen of the Ring. Let's go with those ones, since I'll have a follow-up.
Sure. I guess even before that too, sure. I would say Judgment Day is probably set to break up soon. I'll just leave it at that. But the fissures are forming there.
I also think it's a Mania thing because we talked about the possibility of a match between Dom and Finn at WrestleMania.
I must have missed that part. I think
we talk about it in group. We talked about that in group chat, did we not?
Dom v Finn? I don't know.
I don't think so.
We didn't? I could have swore. Like it's very obvious that they're teasing dissension between them, and with neither having an obvious Mania match.
I mean, it stands to reason.
Unless you keep
they can squeeze it in the card.
Unless you keep them together long enough for an AJ versus Finn match, but
another AJ versus Finn match.
No,
not like I'm ever mad at it. I'll never be mad at AJ versus Finn, but
I'm looking I think I said now we getting Finn versus Dom. I said that on
Did you specify?
February 5th.
But did you specify whether it's going to be at Mania?
I can't read the context of the conversation because I can't scroll up that much when I do a search feature,
Oh,
unfortunately.
well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's either Raw before or after Mania 2. Either way, whether it's at Mania, that would be interesting to see. But yeah, Judgment Day will certainly implode in the first quarter of this year.
Oh no, we talked about it in the context of that match where we said Damian Priest would be on an island, and then Pierce said Damian could face literally anyone, and I said Finn Balor it is, which we all collectively kind of cringed at, and then we kind of went and be like, now we're probably going to get Finn versus Dom.
Yeah, I could see that.
So.
As far as what you were saying with King and Queen of the Ring, I could see Braun winning King of the Ring, Braun Breaker, while he's Intercontinental Champion.
Okay, that's a good pick.
I feel like he's gonna have this run with the Intercontinental Championship, similar to how Cena had his final U.S. title run, or maybe a second U.S. title run, the one that kind of pushed him up into main event picture. So I feel like this is the year. It won't be until later this year, probably SummerSlam or after, where you start to see Braun either as a world champion or as a regular feature in world title matches. I think he loses the Intercontinental Championship before SummerSlam, but I think he could easily win King of the Ring as Intercontinental Champion still.
Okay.
Queen of the Ring, since she wasn't here for the Rumble, I could see the Queen of the Ring going to Becky Lynch.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say AJ Lee, and I was about to fucking just...
That is definitely not happening. That's not happening.
I mean, and especially if the show ends up in Saudi Arabia again this year.
Which it likely will.
There's one Saudi show this year that's been confirmed. That's it.
Yeah,
so,
but they don't confirm them all
for now.
right away.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if King and Queen of the Ring was there again. I'm going to go on to that one then and give my predictions. Actually, Becky is a very good one. I think it'll be Jade Cargill. I think she'll finally come back, and the best way to kickstart her singles ascension would be to win that title.
Interesting to see how she's presented in that tournament, though.
As an unbeatable monster that crushes everybody and gets a SummerSlam title match as a result. Maybe against Bianca Belair.
That's not a bad idea.
Jade and WWE. I need her to be I need that bitch back.
Yeah. And on the men's side, again, because all of my predictions are kind of like intertwined with some stuff, I think John Cena wins King of the Ring.
That'd be dope. King Cena. I would bow to King Cena.
I think John Cena gets his first win against Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And I think that starts his momentum to get him King of the Ring and giving him the main event match at SummerSlam.
Well, and it's something he has to work for, too. It's not like it's the Elimination Chamber where he can just put his fucking name in the hat,
or the Royal Rumble. Or the Royal Rumble, yeah.
Right. The King of the Ring's going to make him work.
That's where I'm going with that one.
I think that's good. I like the sound of that.
I don't know if you had any thoughts, Pierce, on that subject, if you had anything up on that, but did you want to take a stab at it?
No, I didn't. If I'm going to give a King of the Ring, though, I'm going to give it to Jacob Fatu. And Queen, if she comes back, I think Becky's a good shout. If not, I think, throw it on Jade. Strap the rocket to her. She's a fucking star.
Did we have anything prior to Money in the Bank?
Nope.
I'm trying to remember where they fall in chronology. King of the Ring comes before Money in the Bank, does it not, or does it go after?
That's why. No, King of the Ring is before Money in the Bank.
I see. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because
Yep.
my mind was kind of fucking with me on that a bit.
Nope. We're good. Who's your Money in the Bank winners in 2025?
Logan Paul.
Logan Paul.
Yep. Hand to God. I think he's the
I
guy.
didn't have a men's one, but it's probably gonna be Logan.
See, it's all coming together, guys. The vision that I have is all coming together, and it starts with John Cena beating Logan Paul at WrestleMania, and it ends with Logan Paul cashing in his Money in the Bank to beat John Cena as soon as he wins the 17th championship at SummerSlam.
Which would be fucking amazing. That is
Nuclear heat.
What
that is
about the
devious.
What about the women's MITB?
That one, that's a trickier one because I didn't put as much of thought into that. They really need to give that to somebody with established character, somebody who, like, the last couple of years, they haven't given it to somebody who can really carry their own as far as promotional stuff going in. I mean, I'm sorry, Tiffany Stratton, she was still a little bit lacking. So I'm torn between either Chelsea Green, or who should have won last year, or Alexa Bliss.
I don't think Alexa's gonna win it. There's only been one 2-time winner of Money in the Bank in general, and it's CM Punk. I don't think we're gonna get a second 2-time winner.
You said that
Did
about
Carmella
Royal
not?
Rumble too.
Yes,
Am I crazy?
and
Did Carmella not win it
I am
twice?
still annoyed by that, Donnie.
Carmella only won once, I believe.
Okay. I thought she did like an edge thing where she like pinned somebody to win a second time. I could be going crazy.
Let me check. Keep going, Pierce. I'm going to check that. But
This will go into one of my SummerSlam picks. I think the women's Money in the Bank winner is they're going to need a large ladder, a very tall one, for her to be able to get the fucking briefcase, but it's going to be Roxanne Perez.
Okay.
I think they're going to strap the rocket to Roxanne. There's a reason she went 107 minutes in the Rumble. Or 1 hour, 7 minutes. 107, whatever.
Yeah, close enough.
She went. It's same numbers. She was in the Rumble for a very long time, broke a record that's been broken 3 years in a row, but broke it by quite a bit. She broke it by like 5 minutes.
Like I said, she almost beat Gunter's record. She was shy of 4 minutes, and she would have beaten his too.
I think. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I mean, just on the note of Gunter, the comparison, like him, I feel like since she's been wrestling, since she's been in the spotlight, even going back to Ring of Honor, she's been one who you've never.
Roxy.
At the youngest, at 19 years old, the youngest Ring of Honor, Women of Honor, whatever champion in their history. And again, I don't see how you keep titles off of Roxanne, even in NXT. Like, she's been NXT Women's Tag Champ. She's been, she's won every accolade, some of them multiple times, including the NXT Women's Championship. So, I mean, they continue to stack accolades on her, and the majority of the time, I feel like she's been in any of the WWE rosters, she's been either a champion or she's been in the picture. So, I can't see it being any different.
I would personally like someone with a little bit stronger of a character to win on the women's side, but I don't disagree with it in theory.
Like Asuka.
I'm not really going with Asuka either, but
no. I mean, I wasn't really either. I just kind of, talking on my ass.
Did you have a women's one, Brandon?
I was actually giving that thought as we were kind of bantering back and forth about it. Ooh, I got to really give this one some thought. Zelina Vega. Why not?
I'm completely fine with that fucking pull.
That might be more of a hot take than anything.
Well, but her positioning on the card, yes, but I think she's someone with capable character to sustain my interest.
Well, and she's already she's thrown down the gauntlet of basically being willing to challenge any women's champion on SmackDown. So, and it's not like she's untalented by any stretch of the imagination at all. She's definitely a veteran of the game. She's been around for quite a while. So I don't think it's out of question to see her with at least the money. We've had worse Money in the Bank winners. You remember when fucking Otis had the Money in the Bank?
And
Of all
lost it
fucking people.
and lost it to the Miz.
Lost it to The Miz. But hey.
For the Miz to win the title just to lose it to Bobby Lashley.
Yep.
Oh, 2020 to 2021 WWE. How bad you were.
Yeah. Okay, well that leads us kind of into SummerSlam, and I'm operating under the assumption that the winner of King and Queen of the Ring gets a title shot at SummerSlam. So
Yeah, that's my thought.
That's where you get John Cena finally getting his title match at SummerSlam, where he will win and then he will lose. And I know that pains you to hear it, Pierce, but
I think they're gonna give Cena like a month reign before Logan cashes in.
okay. I want the ultimate heat associated to it, which is why I say just do it same night.
Right, that's fair. I expect Penta to be Intercontinental Champion by SummerSlam. Ciro Miedo.
Cool. Could see that. And then you would have Jacob Fatu getting a title match then at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean in a perfect world, but I also kind of expect somewhere in between Mania and SummerSlam. I kind of think it's probably going to be at SummerSlam. Jacob is going to pin Roman Reigns, just clean as a whistle, and then end the year as WWE Champion.
Okay.
Fair.
Yada mean.
Yada badada. Yabba dabba do. I think Braun Breaker, having won King of the Ring in my prediction, goes on to win the World Heavyweight Championship. I don't see him challenging for the WWE Championship. I mean, right from what I feel like it is, if King of the Ring winner is on Raw, he generally will challenge for the Raw title, vice versa. Same with the Queen of the Ring. I don't see him. I see Cena being in the WWE title picture. I see something similar to what you're saying, Don, as far as that goes. I do see Braun taking the World Heavyweight Championship from whoever has it. Whoever has it. It don't matter.
Probably Jey Uso.
From who? Ugh. I don't care to think about it, but I mean, he's already shown dominance in the spear category over one Samoan this year. Roman Reigns. I mean, he was already
not hard to have a better spear than Jey Uso. Sorry. Sorry.
I don't think Jay's going to be champion at SummerSlam.
You think he loses before then?
I hope not.
Yeah, I think he's only going to have like a 2-3 month reign.
Okay.
Who would you think he'd lose it to, though? Do you think he would lose it back to Gunther?
Maybe.
That would be really. Why would both of Jay's title reigns be losing it to the guy that he beat for it? I don't like that idea. I'm going to say that.
I think he loses to a heel, but I don't. It may not be Gunther. I think Gunther probably goes to SmackDown, and then
he could lose
Raw.
To Jacob Fatu.
Maybe he loses it to. Maybe he loses it to Braun before SummerSlam.
It's possible.
Well, and then no, too. Why is Gunther losing it to WrestleManias in a row, losing titles to perpetual underdogs? You know,
because that's his kryptonite.
He's the final underdogs boss of WWE currently.
He didn't have to. In his first WrestleMania match in that triple threat, neither of those guys would be considered underdogs, so that's why he won. But as soon as it's an underdog at WrestleMania, that's kryptonite to Gunther.
It makes sense. You can't
because of his hubris
forever.
Yeah, you can't bench him forever. We've talked about on this show about the need to have shorter title reigns. So
right.
You give Jay the feel good moment to open up Mania, let him hold it for 2 months, have some fun, and then get your next big bad to hold it.
Then we get some no yeet.
Yeah, Jimmy's gonna beat him.
Okay, and then let's get into the second half of the year then. Did you guys have predictions associated to that? There'll be one set of predictions I'm going to call out at the very end, but
I've got one for the rest of the year because my U.S. title one was kind of a year-long prediction, but
that's cool. That's cool.
and then my Jacob one was kind of a year-long as well because he's going to end the year as the WWE champ.
Okay.
Especially, they don't have many people coming out cutting promos every week and just captivating the crowd like Jacob. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Ricky Starks is going to be called up by the end of the year, and he will have had a run as the NXT champion.
Okay. I can see that.
I honestly think I think he beats fucking Oba at Stand and Deliver. I think
You
they
think
may strap
you
the
think
rest.
Trick doesn't even so like Trick gets the match at Roadblock now?
Yeah. They could bring up Trick.
Oh,
Trick's probably ready for the main roster at this point.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting much more out of the tank out of Trick Williams in NXT, so that's fair. That's a rocket ship. Like it's a little different than the Ethan Page rocket ship, but like that's also a rocket ship, and Oba's
And
Oba's a beast.
Oh.
Like,
well, and here's the thing. Here's the contention I have with that because Oba is 100% purely WWE made, right? So how then are you going to sacrifice what could potentially be a monstrous run with the NXT Championship, in which he continues to develop in the ring and as a character, especially holding the championship? How do you then sacrifice that to a guy who is pretty much signed out of spite to AEW? Or you can almost interpret his signing as a gotcha for AEW. It happened the fucking day after we found out he was released.
I mean,
So there's no way you don't.
I'll
I get
counteract that
that
argument. He
too.
was always going to sign to WWE as soon as he possibly could, just because of his relationship
Oh, of
with Cody
course.
Rhodes, right? But
Yeah.
He has the Undertaker backing him. He has Jade Cargill. He has Cody Rhodes, and he has CM Punk.
yeah,
But he's very much still an AEW guy, and that's where people know him from.
He's a
They don't necessarily tie those
guy
connections
that
to
was
him
in the
immediately.
AEW system. He was as unfortunate as it is for me to say, he was never built for AEW.
But
that's why
he
I
did
think
build his name in AEW, though. That's my
he had
point,
his
I
name
guess. Is
well before AEW though.
yeah, but not nearly to the same caliber. Not
He got
nearly
his
on the same
first
tier.
TV shine on AEW, but maybe it's not Stand and Deliver, but I think that's probably your main event at Stand and Deliver is Ricky versus Oba.
okay.
And I think
I
Ricky Starks
guess.
will be NXT champion, but he will be called up by the Rumble. And then I don't think it's going to be a world title match by any means, but I think you finally get the CM Punk and Ricky Starks finale that eluded us in fucking AEW because those two were telling a very good story.
We need to get CM Punk versus Ethan Page first.
And here's a question. Here's a question too. Does Ricky Starks need to win the NXT championship before he were to get called up to the main roster? Or could he put on his showcase, show people what they've been missing in NXT for a stint, and then get shot up? Kind of like how it seems like they're going to do with Jordan Grace now, for whatever reason.
I mean, absolutely not. He does not need to win that title. I think they're going to give him 6 to 8 months in NXT at most. He will be called up by the end of the year. He'll probably be a mid-card champion by the end of the year. And I think, and this is just me, I think they have essentially a upper mid-card world title contender, world champion caliber wrestler on their hands because he's just been sitting at home for 2 years. Damn near. Now he's hungrier than ever. You can see it in his eyes how excited he was to be there. And in one promo, it's already got like 3 million views on social media.
Right.
That's fucking huge for a dude who's been at home since last year.
And also just got released the other day too, which, I mean, people aren't gonna, look at that and think, I mean, I said it in the chat. They are not going to be able to wipe the egg off of their face from this blemish for a long, long time.
It's right up there with
Especially with
CM
all the
Punk.
criticism.
It's right up
Yeah,
there with Penta. It'll be right up there when Ray Phoenix comes over too. Like,
and
just
that's got to be coming very soon.
whereas on the other side of the table with egg on their face, you got Swerve Strickland. Don't
Yep.
know, and you got Tony Storm, but Tony Storm was a little bit different because Tony Storm just quit.
Tony Storm asked
Mhm.
for a release. Swerve got released, and then kind of showed, "Hey, I'm this damn good."
Yep. Nobody else has been that impactful in this recent stint of talent, I would say. But Brandon, what do you got coming in through the end of the year?
Um. Well, you did take my idea about Logan Paul and John Cena. I echo you on that one, but I will add an original and say that Big E will return to the ring, but it'll likely be at a Saudi PLE.
Okay.
Oh,
Unfortunately, there's the monkey's paw with that.
Mm.
You get the wish, but with a catch, and I think that might be it.
It's also how we're getting main event Sami Zayn. So, all right, then I'm going to lead into the last little batch here, barring anything else missed. We talked about this actually on our second ever podcast. Who is going to be John Cena's last opponent? Has your opinion on that changed? It is speculated that there will be a December PLE and WWE this year, and it will be in Boston to have
Oh
Cena's
boy.
last match on it.
Oh boy. That'll be enshrined in memory forever.
So, considering they would be doing it, assuming the speculation rumors, I don't know where exactly it came from, but I did see discussion associated to it. If there is a December PLE that is highlighting John Cena's final match, who gets that match?
Damn. Do we recall who it is that we picked for those?
I did not go back to play it back, but if I recall,
Trick
I
Williams was brought up.
I believe one of you said Trick Williams.
Hmm.
I believe the other said Braun Breaker. And I honestly can't
I
recall
mean,
who I said.
either of those names honestly are pretty viable because I mean, both you could see, elements of John Cena's character in, and they could use those to take them to the top. I've said it on this podcast. I felt like Trick Williams could be the next John Cena for sure. Likewise, I feel like Braun Breaker in his own way has this air of dominance that when Cena turned the gas on, you saw that in him too. So, I mean, both are viable, I think.
I think Braun Breaker would be the way to go if the stars align in that sense.
Hmm.
Especially if Cena's still champion. I don't necessarily expect him to be, but if Cena was to be champion still at that point, then Braun Breaker, I think, without a doubt, would be the guy to do it.
Right.
See, I had him retiring Goldberg this year.
He can do both.
I think
He could.
I think Gunther retires Goldberg for what it's worth, but
I think there's three names. I think Jacob Fatu. I think CM Punk, and I think Braun Breaker.
okay.
No Randy Orton though, hey.
Higher, but if he, in my prediction, I am ending the year as WWE champion. I'm not saying he's going to beat Cena for it, but maybe he does beat Cena for it, and then John Cena just goes for the last chance against the monster he can't beat.
Okay. They did tease John Cena and Jacob Fatu at the Rumble.
Yeah, they did do that as well. And CM Punk versus John Cena is fucking obvious. Those two are forever linked because of their amazing rivalry.
I could see that being a well, I guess if it's in Saudi, it's not. But if it wasn't in Saudi, I could see that being a King of the Ring final match.
Could be.
But that can't happen if it's in Saudi.
That's true too.
Yes.
Right.
Did we miss any predictions for you guys along the way?
Nope. Not for me.
Brandon?
Not I. I don't need to get my stuff in.
All right.
I'm not LA Knight. I need to get all my stuff in anyway.
They're still leaning on that on social media too, eh?
Mm.
We got the promo on Friday where LA Knight said his whole like it's okay to cry, but not as much as Drew does. But now I'm gonna go get my stuff in. So yeah, big time work there. Good job, IWC.
I was very much
reporting.
behind.
Oh, and the IWC is not fucking smart, Donnie. You have to remember that. They're just so fucking negative and angry and
Hey, Sean Ross Sapp was adamant that it was not a work.
I was pretty worked by the whole men's mental health advocacy. As you guys know, my feelings on that.
Mm.
And then he swerved it right into the Drew McIntyre storyline. I'm like, that was brilliant, but you bastard.
LA Knight damn good at this whole talking thing.
Yeah.
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 Yes, indeed.
All right, let's cover the upcoming shows this weekend. So we have Grand Slam Australia that will be this Saturday. It'll be sometime in the morning for us here.
They're showing it immediately after the All-Star game, so it's gonna be pre-taped.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. There's a lot of unfortunateness around this card, but the matches that are announced should be
LOL, 1,000 seats.
should be somewhat decent. There's 5 matches currently listed. It's not
That's
a
all they'll
PLE.
need.
It's not a PLE or it's not a pay-per-view, so I can't say there's 100 more coming, unfortunately. I'll start from the bottom of this list. We've got Mercedes Moné defending the AEW TBS Championship against Harley Cameron.
I believe Monet will retain.
So do I.
As much as I would like not to, because Harley Cameron is a goddamn treasure.
See, and I'm on the opposite end of that. So my one title change was actually the TBS title,
Okay.
but only to free Mercedes Moné up to face whoever wins the Women's World Championship match. And I think that's what's going to be teased at the end of that, which I'm sure will be the main event of the show.
I hope so.
I don't see anything else as a viable contender in that slot.
No, I do not either. Unless Mercedes wants the main event spot, knowing that she's also facing an Australian talent.
I can see the argument made. It's a terrible fucking argument, but
it is a terrible argument.
It can and will be made by Mercedes Moné.
In a Brisbane brawl, Jay White and Cope versus Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli of the Death Riders.
Cope and Jay White, with Jay White probably pinning Claudio, but in a perfect world he pins Mr. Jon Moxley.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I would hope that Moxley gets pinned to help set up maybe they just do the double pin so that way they get a triple threat out of it. But the good guys win this one.
If Claudio doesn't take the pin, then Mox whips the piss out of Cope and makes an example of him, pins him. Don't know where Jay White will be in all that mess, but I'm kind of leaning very slightly towards Mox and Claudio winning that match.
Okay. For the AEW Continental Championship, Kazuchika Okada defends against Buddy Matthews.
Probably a banger. Draw goes to the winner. Okada retains.
I think it's going to be a draw.
They have a 20-minute time limit. I think it's going to hit that 20 minutes.
Ugh, I hate the frequency of draws, even though it doesn't feel like it is actually that often. It feels like it's a lot more often. I think Okada
I do
wins.
remember you saying that.
Just because we
I
never see
also
draws in WWE, that's why it feels like it happens way more often. I mean, we don't really see DQs in AEW, but
right.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel no, you're all right. I feel like Okada wins it. I'll agree with you guys on this. Okada wins it. I think it is a barn burner. I think it comes down to the wire, but I think Okada ultimately pulls out the win. And this match was only recently announced too, so I mean, I expect it to surprise people. I mean, I feel like a lot of people should know that Buddy Matthews is very, very good in the ring. Um, it's not good enough for him to beat Okada in Australia, though.
Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega in a tag match against Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita.
This is probably the hardest match to call because who the fuck takes
Hmm
in this match? Um, I don't think they're gonna have the Protostar lose in Australia, but I really don't know. But I'll give it to the Fletch Lights. I'll give Fletcher
God.
and Takeshita, and I'll say Osprey gets pinned because he seems like he's okay being pinned in these bigger matches.
Yeah, I also think that Fletcher and Takeshita win.
I feel like they also might exploit a weakness in Kenny Omega too. I mean, he came back and he looked really, really good. Um, but they could easily play to a weakness in Kenny Omega as well, just to kind of save face in that aspect.
He's got a
Because
dirty stomach.
yeah, he's got a tum tum issue, and I mean too, like I mean when you consider the guys in the match too, like he's arguably for accolades like that actually matter and not star ratings. Kenny Omega is arguably the greatest among all of them. He's also the oldest. He's also the one who is arguably like, the one who's closest to being put out. Not arguably, he is the one who's closest to being put out to pasture when it comes to a career. So I could see something happening where Osprey fucks up or Kenny fucks up and then Kenny's hurt and then they exploit his injury and then he takes the pin. But I could still see Fletcher and Takeshita walking out with that one. They're both riding very high on these waves of momentum they got going on.
And in what we hope to be the main event for the AEW Women's World Championship, Mariah May defends against Timeless Tony Storm.
I believe Tony is going to regain her title. I think this has probably been the best women's story AEW has ever told. I know Brandon was kind of hating on it when it got to Tony being an amnesiac when she came back, but her acting as herself is really just a stroke of genius on Tony Storm's part. And I think she's probably going to regain the title.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Tony Storm makes sense to win here. In the feel good, go home match.
I mean, yeah, and the bitch of it is that Mariah May's women's title reign has been so closely linked to the status of Tony Storm, right? Like Tony Storm was gone, therefore Mariah May is still the world champion now that Tony's back, and especially now that she's timeless Tony, which I could argue got ham-fisted back just in time for Grand Slam because there's no way they weren't going to run anybody but timeless Tony Storm against Mariah May.
I don't know if it's been
My
it was probably, kind of planned that way.
Well, I felt like it went a little faster than maybe it could have gone. I felt like maybe they could have spaced things out a little bit more, but I get if they're working on a time crunch, right? Like the Australia event's been in plan for months, right? So it was always going to be this way.
But saying it was
I don't know.
is kind of, this was the AEW does do a lot of long-term storytelling. So
I guess just that for me, the transition from, amnesiac rookie Tony Storm slash, I've been playing you all along, LOL, to now being timeless again. I felt like it was kind of quick, but again, like with Grand Slam being right here now, like it makes sense in that respect. But
At least they're
I
gonna
don't
get
know.
the grudge rematch, unlike MJF and Adam Cole.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can live without MJF and Adam Cole. I ain't mad about that whatsoever. But I mean, my heart, my heart says Mariah May so that she can finally put Tony past her for a little bit and show what she can do as a women's champion without Tony being on her heels. My mind says they will have Tony Storm win this match for the fact that regardless if she wins or loses the TBS title, Mercedes Moné is next in line.
Okay.
I would like to see a Mariah May versus Mercedes Moné match, just for curiosity's sake to see how they build it, but also because it gives Mariah May a real challenge besides Tony Storm to where she can validate herself as women's world champion on her own merits. And you got the double M thing going too. You got the Mariah May, the Mercedes Moné, da da da. But I don't know. Again, it's one of those instances where I feel like I had it on another card where my heart says one thing, my mind says another. So in this case, my heart says Mariah, my head says Tony.
Okay. That wraps up that show, and also that night, but live, will be NXT Vengeance Day from the Care First Arena in Washington, D.C. We currently have 6 matches on this card. We'll start off with Eddie Thorpe versus Trick Williams in a strap match.
probably Trick.
It's probably Trick, but I think Eddie needs the win more.
I don't think you're wrong.
Eddie hasn't really done much of anything to justify where he was on the card and getting title matches, but he hasn't won anything. He literally hasn't won anything. His qualifier match, he faked an injury for, then he lost, and then he was in another match and he lost, and now he's in this match and he's probably going to lose.
I mean, for following the predictable route, yeah, because Trick, I mean, and that's another kind of flaw in Trick's booking, I feel like in some cases too, where you might see the heels get one over on him, every now and again, but I feel like and I feel like the feud with Ethan Page kind of showed that too, where like ultimately Trick comes out on top, and whether it was the right decision or not, I feel like in this case, the right decision, like kind of to your points, Don, where Eddie is going to effectively be this like Weasley, not like a mastermind, but kind of an opportunist in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could exhibit a lot with Eddie Thorpe and build him as a future star in NXT because, right, I feel like we've said it, Trick is probably main roster bound in 2025 and probably either shortly before or after WrestleMania.
Yep.
So with that in mind, I would say this is the time to start building guys like Eddie Thorpe because Eddie Thorpe has been around for a while too. It's not like he's, a greenhorn. It's not like he's, fresh out of, the ID program or the NIL program or whatever. He's been around.
No,
He's now getting this.
He had a pretty bad injury that kind of slowed him down a little bit after that underground match with Dijak.
Yeah, he did. And he's getting this opportunity now where it would have been easy to see, like, based on how his character kind of was. It was kind of stagnant before, where he was just getting, like, level up matches and shit like that. But now he's kind of coming more into his own and he's getting time on the stick and he's getting backstage segment. So now I feel like if you want to show how good this guy can be in ring and you want him to try to tell stories in ring, I feel like this is a good opportunity in beating a well-established NXT star, soon to be main roster star in Trick Williams. And I maybe not again as much a prediction as a wish,
Yeah.
but I would think in both cases Eddie stands to benefit the most, and by extension NXT in general.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. Next up for the NXT Tag Team Championship, as mentioned earlier, Nathan Frazier versus and Axiom, aka Fraxium, versus Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura.
I don't see Fraxium losing.
I have zero opinion of this match outside of Fraxium winning. Like, I haven't seen much on Josh and Yoshiki, but I don't think they're probably good enough.
Next match, I think we all think it's going to be Fraxium.
Okay, cool. Javon Evans versus Ethan Page.
I think Javon should win, but I just want Ethan to win. You know me, I'm an Ethan Page mark.
I think Javon should.
Javon Evans is his jaw's not still fucked, is it? I haven't been able to catch much of the weekly recently, but
they haven't.
I know he had a fucked jaw.
Yeah, they haven't shown him talking properly or anything since the last time he got socked by Ethan when he had an injured jaw.
Okay.
So whether he is 100% for that match or not, that is to be determined.
All right. Well, in that case, I say Javon puts on a strong show. I think he probably even gets a point in the match where he very clearly should have won, but due to shenanigans and exploitation of his, busted up jaw, I think Ethan gets this one.
Okay.
They'll probably have another match again before Ethan eventually goes up to the main roster, but
yeah, it could be a stand and deliver gimmick match.
Yep, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That could be his send off.
For the NXT Women's North American Championship, Fallon Henley defends against Stephanie Vaquer.
I don't know if Henley should lose it yet, but it is Stephanie Vaquer. But I think Vaquer versus Julia is really the match they're gonna do at Stand and Deliver. So I'm gonna go with Fallon Henley.
Okay. I also think Fallon's going to win here for a similar reason to you. I do think the Stand and Deliver match is Stephanie versus Julia. So I'll say Fallon here.
I would also say Fallon. I've heard them rumor about Stephanie winning and them kind of doing what they did with Keith Lee,
The unification
where
match.
they try and double it up because it adds additional stake to an already huge main event match, right? I feel like it kind of diminishes the North American Championship, and I also feel like it diminishes the work that Fallon's been putting in over the last year or so. And especially since she also has a stable behind her on top. But yeah. I'd say Fallon wins this, though.
Then we have, for the NXT Women's Championship, a Fatal 4-Way. Julia defends against Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, and Bayley.
Julia pins Roxanne because Cora Jade is not a good friend to her anymore.
I think Julia pins Bayley.
I think Roxanne.
You think she pins Bayley?
First. I think she pins Bayley.
Do you think Rox and Cora are going to get too much into their own shit?
Yeah, I think so. They'll beat the hell out of each other, be predisposed, and Julia will pin Bayley.
That's fair.
And that'll give Julia a real big win. So
that's where I'm at.
I guess a former NXT Women's Champion.
Yeah. Bayley seems the type to be willing to give the rub to somebody who could use it.
Yeah. And then Julia being such a big fan of Bayley too. What an honor to get a pinfall. be the right kind of Bailey fan.
Mm.
I think that's funny that like part of the thing is with all three of them is that they're all huge Bailey fans.
No,
Happy-
you're
Like-
thinking of Lyra. You're thinking of Lyra. There was a
No.
picture of Lyra at a meet and greet with Bailey. There was a picture of Cora at a meet and greet and Roxanne at a meet and greet.
Well, right, but Julia also comes out and says that she's a huge, huge fan of Bailey,
Oh.
which I could kind of see. I mean, there's not meet and greet photos with the two of them for obvious reasons, right? Like Julia, carving shit up in Japan. I don't know how many times the E got over to Japan while Julia was doing her thing over there, but like, I could still see some like influence potentially, especially because around that time is when Bailey was, doing things in Brooklyn with Sasha and all that. When Julia was probably, in the dojo or something, or doing some crazy stuff for Stardom or wherever she happened to be at the time.
Right.
But
We all agree that Julia wins at the very least.
Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely, they wouldn't
Uh,
sacrifice that.
I think the main event would also be pretty predictable too here, and that's Ope-Eh defending his NXT championship in a triple threat match against A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory, and Grayson Waller. What the fuck is this match?
Well, neither of them have been NXT champion before, so each has something to prove.
And Austin Theory's not going to win the fucking championship, Brandon.
Neither is Grayson Waller.
I mean,
Just
I
throwing it
wouldn't.
out
This doesn't behoove me in any way. What I'm curious about, though, since we're on the note of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and since we know this is a foregone conclusion of a match, who do we speculate is in this fucking foursome that's in the Vengeance Day promos based off the silhouettes? Because one of them sure as fuck looks like Austin Theory, and if I'm not mistaken, another one looks very similar to Grayson Waller.
I think it's going to be 4 new people.
You think it's going to be 4 brand new people?
Yeah.
But like, who and why is
I
my
don't
question.
It's going to be people that were on Level Up that are ready to come to TV.
Yeah, but who would that be though? That's my question.
I don't know enough of the
I know
people
they did
on Level Up to make a prediction.
Exactly.
I guess I'm just trying to say based on the silhouettes that I'm seeing, like one of them looks very, very much like an Austin Theory. And that's why I'm like, maybe something happens by the end of the match where the two of them start to beat down and then Oba starts to get up, do his,
Well, it'll be better
thing
for
where he
Austin
rules.
to be on NXT than it would be for fucking Raw or SmackDown.
Did you guys see the trailer at the end of the show last night? Or the little tease at the end where they are much more. They have like masks and they very much look like a Retribution adjacent group.
Oh, God.
His name is
I didn't-
Slapjack.
I didn't catch that, but I did catch an Austin Theory silhouette, which is why
Yeah, they have
at least
more like
he's next to the guy with the dreads.
skull.
Is it because Austin Theory is so boring that you can just assume he's a silhouette? Or
It's because the silhouette that I see looks just like the profile of Austin
It
Theory.
kind of looks like him.
And then the guy to the right, if I'm looking at the picture, the guy to the right of the dreads could very well be Grayson Waller.
It's hard.
Admittedly,
to tell
I did not.
The picture.
Right, my mind is just kind of playing with it, but I didn't see any videos. You said that there's a video,
Yeah, so
so there was a promo.
The end of NXT last night after Tony D got murdered had
always in the back of your mind, you're always thinking Austin Theory is going to be world champion someday, and me and Donnie are sitting here thinking, not a chance.
I'm surprised he didn't pick him to win King of the Ring or Money in the Bank again.
I mean, no, my perspective has shifted a little bit. I'm not so much a fanboy where I'll just throw faith blindly into something like that. I will say there's still a huge amount of upside to him, not like how people saw it in like a Baron Corbin, where I'll see people defending to the death that he should have been a world fucking champion, where it's like, brother, he had 6 or 7 fucking gimmicks. And in none of those gimmicks was he a draw. He was a bum. He was a millionaire. He was a king, a constable, a fucking lone wolf, a biker.
The money was with Lone Wolf. I'll say this: the money was with Lone Wolf, and then he wins.
Brother, he was
Money in the
never a
Bank.
draw.
He wins Money in the Bank. Was he the best choice for that? Probably not, but he wins it. And then he gets screwed out of it because he tells a doctor that's saying concussions aren't bad. Oh, I was in the NFL and concussions are bad. So
Well, my contention, my thing is like,
go.
no, my thing is like he was just never a draw, and he, as much as they tried different shit with him, nothing they done with him would have been sustainable. He would have been worse than Jinder Mahal as a champion.
And you are trying to argue that Austin Theory can be a world champion?
Not necessarily. I'm not trying to continue down.
You're talking draw.
I'm talking about like parallel consider the fact that they've tried a lot more with Baron Corbin and with a guy who, when you look at the draws in the industry, the big guys who can do crazy shit like a deep six, or, he's got golden glove, blah, blah. He's got this cool look, but at the end of it, like it just wasn't enough. So that's where I'm saying, like,
no pop.
At least with Theory, I will say this: with Theory, I see more upside than Baron Corbin at a purely categorical level.
They got to try the babyface Austin Theory because his heel shit is bad.
They've barely tried anything with Theory thus far. Like they tried maybe like they've done the way on NXT, then that split up, and then they got this young like proto social media character where he's taking selfies and shit. But then you got guys like Logan Paul who come around and completely axe that whole fucking thing. And now he's just kind of like a pretty boy with Grayson Waller, who's, I will admit, Grayson is much more comfortable on the stick, more naturally charismatic in that respect. So what are we going to do here? I guess that's the thing to figure out in this 2025.
That's
it's kind of a make or break.
Thanks for tuning into our weekly Austin Theory segment. One more thing I just wanted to quickly add back on the topic at hand of the teased faction. Supposedly, speculation is that it will be 4 people from Level Up. And those people are Saquon Sugars, Cutler James, Dion Lennox, and Keanu Carter.
Those are all the worst fucking names I've ever heard.
Well, these are 4 people that have been on Level Up or occasionally on NXT that would also meet the profiles of these people. So,
yeah, I suppose.
Fuck
it. Why not?
That is it, though, for today's show. Next week we'll cover the results of these cards, obviously, and we'll have to think of something else to have on next week's show because we don't do predictions for Elimination Chamber until the week after. So
that's true.
What do we have on the old calendar, Reno? Did we have something on the calendar for?
Well, on the calendar, Reno, we had results, and I specifically had you shitting on Grand Slam no matter what. So I mean, I expect that.
You know me so well.
So we'll all probably have a fun time shitting on that in one. Unfortunately. But that's what I had. I mean, as far as a hard copy goes, like we'll figure it out. We always do. We can figure it.
We can figure out a little something extra to put in there.
Oh yeah.
Maybe there'll be such a maybe there'll be such a good banger this weekend that we can build around that somehow.
Hey, there's some optimism in the week, yeah.
So we'll have like best bangers of NXT because we know AEW won't have one. Huh? Pierce?
Eh, eh.
Nah? Okay, I think we're done. This is a bit of a longer one than we've been doing recently. I think we're about to wrap up here and go home. Once again, follow us on all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever the fuck. I'm never gonna call it X intentionally. Instagram, YouTube.
Google Plus. I think one of us has a Reddit account.
Zanga, MySpace.
MySpace, yeah, MySpace.
Bring it back
We also have a
for all you millennials
Facebook.
out there.
You can follow us on Tinder, Hinge,
Yeah.
Bumble.
Yeah, not me. No, you're not finding me in Toronto on that. Definitely not.
Definitely not, Don.
No, you guys in the Wisconsin area, that's your business. You will not find me on that in Toronto.
No, Donnie is in a great relationship.
Nothing worth scoping in Toronto,
Person
anyway.
Tells him to get his own fucking chips.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
She inspires you to be a better man, Don.
Yep. I am actually
Take the bull
waiting
by the horns.
to get this finished so I can go downstairs and get some chips.
Well, on that
thinking
note,
about those.
thanks, as always, for stopping into the Ope 3-Way. Have a beer on us. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.